Pokemon Go is a game I've been playing ever since it was released way back in 2016. I was one of the guys who managed to get the APK to play it early before it was even released globally. I absolutely loved it. I never stopped playing this game when it first came out. I would use any excuse I could to try and play this game, but as the years went by, I slowly started playing less and less. More problems arose with the game, and I think a lot of players can relate to that. And then obviously it's all led up to 2025 where Niantic has sold Pokemon Go to Scopley for 3.5 billion. So I'm going to go over the entire Pokemon Go history, the sad decline of the game, and how we got to this point in 2025. Now, I am probably going to miss a lot of things out. I've tried my best to get all the main points, and I've got some things I want to say at the end as well. My opinion on why the game died for me and why I stopped enjoying the game in general. So obviously 2016, the launch of Pokemon Go started with the biggest bang you could probably imagine. It was bigger than the Earth being created. It was absolutely huge. I don't think there's ever been a game to have an impact like Pokemon Go did when it first came out. You'd be walking around, and when you saw people looking down at their phone, just stood there with their finger, you know, doing the swirls to try and get curveballs, you know they're playing Pokemon Go. And for a while it was like that. It was very fun, but immediately Pokemon Go hit a wall. Servers were down an awful lot. In-game tracking was absolutely terrible. Everyone hated it. It just didn't really work. There was not really anything to do after catching the Gen 1 Pokemon. There was no new features for 4 months until the first in-game event. And even though the events were good, people just kept leaving after these events, meaning that the player count was always all over the place for Pokemon in its first year. And the hype was down for quite a while until 2017, until Gen 2 was released. And it wasn't just some Pokemon from Gen 2, it was the entirety of Gen 2. And that did bring a lot of hype back. When there's a lot of Pokemon to catch, Pokemon Go is very fun, but then obviously it hits the wall again. It's just the same problem. People get bored after catching them all, which is very funny because that is the point of Pokemon. They did add the first shiny Magikarp in 2017, but after that, it was the most dead the game has probably ever been, until they added an absolutely huge thing to the game, which was raids. Raids are now a staple in Pokemon Go. Without raids, I think a lot of people would have stopped playing this game. Obviously, it's the best place to catch legendaries. You can get like event Pokemon in these raids, and they also brought out the first Go Fest in August 2017. The Go Fest was incredibly hyped, but it was an absolute failure. It was to the point where people was chanting that they couldn't play the game. They was chanting for them to fix the game because they've obviously spent money to go to this Go Fest and they can't play it. And there was people from Niantic coming out trying to, you know, resolve the situation, but it was not looking good. So they ended 2017 with a bit of an L. But 2018 was actually the year of redemption for Pokemon Go. Community Day was added in January, obviously a thing that happens every month now. It's very much loved in the community. It's a very good chance to get shiny Pokemon and just evolutions that you don't have. They started to add lots of rare Pokemon to raids, started fixing broken features, tons of in-person events, and the Go Fest was improved as well. A very solid year in general. And the momentum went into 2019 with 3 different Go Fests that year. They added Shadow Pokemon and Team Rocket and just a bunch of other things. The game was seeing success, and then 2020 hit. Now obviously due to pandemics, no one could play Pokemon Go properly. It's a game where you had to walk, but all you can see is stay inside. We had to stay inside, lockdown everywhere. There's nothing you can do when you can't walk on Pokemon Go. So Niantic, with their big brains, they added features to make it playable from your house. They added 6-hour community day events. They added daily field research. All eggs required half the distance to actually hatch them. So 5k eggs went down to 2.5, and then 2 to 1, stuff like that. Incense went up to an hour. They added a 1 Pokecoin box with 30 incenses. They changed the spawn rate, the Go League walking requirement was removed, and the big one that they have never topped feature-wise is remote raid passes. This changed the game for Pokemon Go. It brought back a lot of players and made them so much money. I bet they I can't imagine how much it was. Such a simple thing added which made the game so much more fun. A big problem Pokemon Go always had was that if you played Pokemon Go in an area where, you know, no one was really playing it, raids were kind of impossible. But with the addition of remote raid passes, you could do them so much easier. It made every legendary accessible to people, and it just made the game more inclusive. Everyone could play it. Even if you was in the middle of a desert, you could just load up the game and join a raid. In July, they brought out the Global Go Fest and added a a new Unova event with tons of new Pokemon and shinies. They added Mega Evolution, and they were just on a roll in 2020, in a year where it should have realistically died. But Niantic decided to completely go back on some features they added that year. They put the hatch distance back to normal, they made it so incensors only worked while walking, and they reverted some other changes as well. But people weren't happy since lockdown was still happening. It was still hard to get around and, you know, catch Pokemon in a time where you step outside and you don't want to get an illness for a Pikachu. So Niantic quickly decided to bring these features back and stated that they aren't permanent, and they kind of ended the year with a bit of a flop, because in December that year they brought out an event for Galarian, Mr. Mime and Mr. Rhyme that you had to pay access for. I think this was the first one they ticketed and made it so you had to pay like $8 to get a ticket to take part in this event, which leads us into 2021, the 25th anniversary of Pokemon. They did a huge Pokemon GO Kanto tour which saw a lot of success. In June of 2021, the bonuses were officially gone, and they also hinted changes to the remote raid passes, but they didn't change them just yet. Once again, tons of people started hating on Niantic, and Niantic released a statement about news in September about the changes. So people had to wait till September to actually hear what Niantic had to say about these changes, and what they said was, we'll add the 80-meter radius back, you can have that. And they also said they would release developer diaries every other month to share the latest events and features, and they also said they will set up regular conversations with community leaders to not lose touch with the community. Now, that last bit, remember that, because this is not a thing that happens. So 2022, we had the Johto tour. They reworked Mega Evolution. They gave them a level system, and when these were improved, it gave you bonuses, which are still useful to this day, and it makes Mega Evolution actually usable. Global Go Fest returned. They added the daily incense. They added the elite raids that you could only do in person. I've never liked the elite raids. I think they are just crap. And they had the Mythical Blade event where you had to pay for Keldeo, so they was locking mythical Pokemon behind these tickets now. And then we move on to 2023. We've got two Pokemon GO tours with the first in-person event. Now, this immediately caused controversy because the Las Vegas Hoenn tour had increased shiny odds while the Global Fest didn't, which means if you paid to go to the Las Vegas tour in person, you had these amazing shiny odds like all day. But the Global Fest, the free version of this that is available for the entire world, you don't get these shiny odds, which immediately made players not very happy with Niantic. And then they did the worst possible thing they could have ever done, which is update the remote raid passes. Now, these changes was that they had their price doubled and you could only use 5 per day. And Niantic didn't say anything about this, they just did it. Every video in the world was just directed at Niantic. It felt like, that it was trending all over Twitter and everything. And when they said that, they're going to share everything with the latest events and everything, they didn't do anything. All that stuff about communicating with community leaders and everything, that was gone. And then in the same year, announcements would have the wrong information. The elite raid feature completely broke. A lot of events became hatch focused, which made eggs become like loot boxes in a way, because obviously you had to buy incubators to try and get these new Pokemon that were locked in eggs, but you're not even guaranteed to get that Pokemon in the egg. And incubators are not cheap, I'll tell you that for free. And they added shadow raids, which you can only do in person as well, which again is stupid. And then we get to 2024. They did have some cool stuff in 2024. They added the new Dynamax feature and Gigantamax, which is cool. I haven't really done much with it, I'm not gonna lie, but it is a cool thing to add. They added the fusion feature for Necrozma. They had an amazing Global Day event where they debuted Origin Palkia and Dialga. Honestly, the most fun I've ever had playing Pokemon Go. It just felt like old Pokemon Go. There was shinies everywhere, tons of just cool Pokemon. The spawns were great, and there was tons of people playing the game in person, which I was shocked about myself. They had some cool events here and there. They added the shiny Galarian birds, and then they made a terrible avatar update, which people still hate to this day. I don't know what they were thinking with that. It was bad. And that brings us to 2025. We've started with a terrible Unova tour event. It just didn't feel like an event. I tried playing it, I couldn't get into it. I feel like the spawns they did were terrible. I got one shiny and it was from this battle pass. There was a free version, which is what I got the Oshawott from, but there was like 60 tiers of rewards that you had to pay like £15 for. They gave us some free legendaries, which was nice, and then obviously Niantic sold Pokemon Go. So that might not be everything, but that's all the things I have on my notes. And the reason I quit Pokemon Go is I just feel like the game became too repetitive. I feel like they recycled content too much. I always load the game up every now and again, and the spawns are just always the same stuff. I just feel like the effort was slowly removed from Pokemon Go. So Scopley could either be the death, like the absolute death of Pokemon Go, or it could be the revival. But we will see, I'm sure. But yeah, that is the sad decline of Pokemon Go. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Tell me what you think about Pokemon Go in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.